A mother stands at the entrance of her son's graduation ceremony, pride radiating from every inch of her perfectly pressed military uniform. The medals on her chest catch the afternoon light as she reaches for the door handle, ready to witness one of the most important moments in her child's life. But before she can take another step, a security guard blocks her path with an outstretched arm and 3 words that will change everything: "You can't enter." Before we dive into this incredible story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments below, and if this story moves you, please hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez had been looking forward to this day for months. Her son Michael was graduating valedictorian from Roosevelt High School, and after 3 deployments overseas, she had finally made it home in time to see him walk across that stage. She had specifically requested leave, coordinating with her commanding officer to ensure nothing would interfere with this milestone moment. The uniform she wore wasn't just clothing, it represented 15 years of dedicated service, 2 Purple Hearts, and countless sacrifices made in the name of protecting her country and providing for her family. As Sarah approached Lincoln Auditorium that sunny May afternoon, she felt a mixture of nervous excitement and overwhelming pride. Michael had maintained a 4.0 GPA throughout high school while she was stationed in Afghanistan, and she knew the challenges he had faced as a military child, moving from base to base, dealing with her extended absences. This graduation represented not just his achievement, but their family's resilience through years of separation and uncertainty. The security guard, a middle-aged man named Frank Thompson, looked Sarah up and down with obvious disapproval. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave and change clothes. We have a strict dress code for graduation ceremonies. No costumes, no inappropriate attire, and that includes military uniforms." Sarah blinked in disbelief. "Excuse me? This isn't a costume. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Martinez, United States Army, and this is my son's graduation. I came directly from the base to be here." Frank shook his head firmly. "I don't care what you're dressed up as. The rules are clear: formal attire only. Jeans, t-shirts, costumes, and uniforms are not permitted. You'll need to go home and change into appropriate clothing if you want to attend." Other parents began to gather around, some murmuring in confusion, others pulling out their phones to record what was quickly becoming a tense confrontation. Sarah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and frustration, but her military training kicked in. She remained calm and composed, even as her heart raced with the possibility of missing her son's big moment. "Sir, with all due respect, this is my dress uniform. I am an active-duty service member, and I have every right to wear this uniform. I flew in from Fort Campbell this morning specifically for this ceremony, and I will not be changing my clothes." But Frank remained unmoved. "Look, lady, I've heard every excuse in the book. Halloween was months ago. Find something appropriate to wear or watch from the parking lot. Those are your options." What Frank didn't know, what none of the gathering crowd knew, was exactly who Sarah Martinez was and what she had accomplished during her years of service. Behind those modest ribbons and medals was a story of extraordinary courage and sacrifice that had earned her recognition at the highest levels of military command. Just as the situation seemed to reach a breaking point, a voice cut through the tension from behind the crowd. "Lieutenant Colonel Martinez? Is that really you?" Everyone turned to see Dr. Robert Chen, the school principal, pushing through the gathered parents with a look of recognition and growing concern on his face. Dr. Chen had served as a Navy officer before transitioning to education, and he immediately recognized not just Sarah's rank, but the significance of the decorations on her uniform. "Dr. Chen, thank God you're here," Sarah said with visible relief. "I'm trying to attend my son Michael's graduation, but I'm being told my uniform violates the dress code." Dr. Chen's expression shifted from concern to something approaching awe as he got a closer look at Sarah's chest full of ribbons and medals. His military background allowed him to read the story they told: multiple combat deployments, acts of valor under fire, and service that had taken her to some of the most dangerous places on Earth. "Frank," Dr. Chen said quietly to the security guard, "I need you to step aside. This woman is not wearing a costume." But Frank wasn't backing down. "Principal Chen, the rules clearly state—" "The rules," Dr. Chen interrupted, his voice growing stronger, "state that appropriate formal attire is required. There is nothing more formal or more appropriate than the dress uniform of a decorated United States Army officer." The crowd had grown larger now, with nearly 50 parents and family members forming a circle around the unfolding drama. Some had their phones out, live-streaming the confrontation on social media. Others whispered among themselves, trying to understand what was happening. Dr. Chen turned to address the crowd, his voice carrying the authority of both an educator and a former military officer. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand who is standing before us today. This is Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez, and those aren't just decorations on her uniform, they're the evidence of a hero." He pointed to the ribbons on Sarah's chest, his voice growing more emotional with each word. "That Purple Heart represents wounds received in combat while serving our country. That Bronze Star was earned for heroic achievement in a combat zone. Those deployment ribbons represent multiple tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, time spent away from her family, away from her son, protecting our freedom." The crowd fell silent as the weight of Dr. Chen's words sank in. Frank the security guard shifted uncomfortably, beginning to realize the magnitude of his mistake. But Dr. Chen wasn't finished. 3 years ago, Lieutenant Colonel Martinez led a convoy rescue mission that saved the lives of 12 American soldiers when their vehicles were attacked by enemy forces. She personally carried 2 wounded soldiers to safety under heavy fire, sustaining injuries that nearly cost her own life. The military doesn't hand out medals for showing up, they hand them out for acts of courage that most of us can't even imagine. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes, not from the recognition, but from the overwhelming emotion of finally being understood and respected for her service. She had never sought attention or praise, she had simply done her duty as she saw it. The crowd began to murmur with a different energy now. What had started as curiosity about a dress code violation had transformed into something much more powerful, a moment of recognition for sacrifice and service that demanded respect. Furthermore, Dr. Chen continued, while Lieutenant Colonel Martinez was serving overseas, her son Michael maintained perfect grades and became one of the most outstanding students in our school's history. This family has given more to this country than most of us ever will, and they deserve our gratitude, not our suspicion. Frank stepped forward, his face red with embarrassment. "Lieutenant Colonel, I apologize. I had no idea. I was just following what I thought were the rules." Sarah nodded graciously. "No harm done. We all make mistakes. I just want to see my son graduate." But the crowd had other ideas. Someone in the back started clapping, and within seconds, the entire gathering of parents erupted in thunderous applause that echoed off the walls of the auditorium. Some people were wiping away tears, others were saluting, and many were chanting, "Thank you for your service." Dr. Chen smiled as he gestured toward the auditorium doors. "Lieutenant Colonel Martinez, it would be my honor to personally escort you to the front row, where you belong." As Sarah walked through those doors, escorted by the principal and followed by the cheering crowd, she felt a surge of emotion unlike anything she had experienced in years of military service. This was what she had been fighting for. Moments like this, families like hers, communities that could come together and recognize the value of service and sacrifice. Michael Martinez, waiting backstage in his cap and gown, had no idea that his mother's arrival had created such a stir. All he knew was that when he walked across that stage to receive his diploma, he would see her proud face in the audience, exactly where she belonged.